Dhammarut. Throughout the time that we spend together here, may you determine to train yourself, depending on the postures of walking meditation, and rhythmic meditation while sitting. Move your hands and arms as has been instructed, and see and be aware of getting up, walking, sitting, and other movements of the body in the various postures. Fix on awareness, build up awareness and stay with awareness a lot. Be aware when your mind thinks of this and that and goes to other objects, because it will abandon the watching and seeing of the present, existing posture. Know how to put down thoughts and moods, pull yourself away, and come back to watch and see the movements of the body. Train yourself to be skilled at this point. Establish awareness properly. Take this way of practicing to be your work, depending on this body as the base. See Rupa moving and see Nama moving. These actions, of body and mind, are kama, intentional. Train to see the basics of life. The first aspect of life that we will really see is Rupa and Nama. See it like this. Know which part is Rupa and which part is Nama. Rupa is this body of ours, that moves to and fro in the various postures, such as walking and sitting. Nama is feeling and thought, that which orders the body to move this way and that. It orders one to love, to be angry, to be delighted and to be sad. It orders one to go here and there. All of that is the state of Nama. All of it is a movement of the mind. This is called Nama acting. In reality, to get to see Rupa Nama and to be able to differentiate between them, takes rather a long time. This is because our minds are used to thinking, they are used to being carried away by moods. Whatever object arises, completely takes one in. A thought of anger arises and one becomes angry, whatever one indulges in, one gets overwhelmed by. But as soon as we fix on being within limits and establish awareness, those moods that used to be so powerful, now express a reaction. Some people do walking meditation for a little while and get sleepy. Some people practice the rhythmic meditation and become restless, their minds go all over the place. They struggle hard and feel uncomfortable, burdened, they have headaches and tight feelings in the chest. There are these troublesome things that come up all the time, they are obstacles. Understand this to be ordinary. Don't be annoyed, uncomfortable and burdened by those various manifestations. Establish awareness, hold on to awareness well. Whatever states or conditions arise during the practice of meditation, recognize them, see them. Have crystal clear awareness. Recollect what your main duty is. It is to cultivate awareness, and to see the body as it is moving in its present posture. This is the foundation. As for thought or any moods that come to interfere, regard that as ordinary, take that to be objects that change according to the habits of the mind, that hasn't yet been trained. All right, when it arises, but our main duty is to establish sati. Be aware, arouse awareness in order to see the body, always see the states, conditions, and whereabouts of the body, as it is moving about as clearly as possible. Know how to put down thoughts and moods that are, continuously, changing, don't let them be obstacles. This point right here, might be a big issue for some, and not a big deal for others. Characteristics and conditionings tend to vary according to previously accumulated habits. Sometimes the thoughts and moods that interfere are quite powerful. They might make one's mind think in line with them, until one is fooled and forgets oneself. The mind wanders away, it gets really fascinated with those things. Never mind. When we realize it, and are newly aware, be careful. Come back to fix on awareness and keep on practicing. The state of the mind wandering off and lacking awareness, the mind feeling uncomfortable and burdened, arises a lot when we first set out to train ourselves to develop awareness. It is the same for everyone. Because, originally, we are used to thinking all sorts of things according to our own untrained minds. Therefore, it is going against the stream of our old habits to try and establish and arouse awareness. So, it is ordinary that there are various obstacles. In the beginning, we must depend on devotion, and put forth a lot of effort to train and establish awareness, so that one gains awareness. Be determined to make effort with walking meditation and sitting, doing the rhythmic meditation. Make movements with the body and train a lot to be aware. Never mind if the mind loses awareness, and thinks of this and that 100 or 1000 times. Regard yourself as somebody who is still new at the training. Inspire yourself. Try and do the best you can. Keep establishing awareness consistently. When you lose it, you start again, you lose it again and you start once more. The state of delusion and forgetting often, and then being able to re-establish awareness, makes one begin to be able to differentiate, and one gets to know what one's heart and one's real character are like. One begins to understand how to adjust one's own mind to be aware. One knows how to put down changing thoughts and moods. These experiences teach one to re-establish sati faster and clearer. Awareness becomes more and more prominent, as long as one tries and puts forth effort. We now begin to really discern our states of mind, the states that are conditioned by thoughts and moods, and the state that is governed by awareness. We have more ability to know our own moods in time. And there is more awareness as well as awakeness. The conditions, of feeling uncomfortable and oppressed, of doubt and confusion, of restlessness and giddiness, and of feeling fed up, that used to be there, gradually begin to fade out, with each moment that our sati sampajanya begins to awaken more and more. Until finally, when we really have aroused awareness, and a sense of being awake firmly, we see the existing rupa and nama clearly. That's it. We now get to know about life. We get to know suffering, dukkha, the suffering of rupa and nama. We will understand that rupa or the body is a lump of suffering. It consists of parts that are always moving and changing. One really sees the unfolding of the various states, conditionings, and processes of the body clearly. Breathing is suffering, it is a conditioning, it is dukkha, it is an ordinary state that happens by itself. Swallowing saliva, blinking the eyes, opening the mouth, eating, lying down, taking a shower, putting on clothes and so on, is all dukkha. They are ordinary conditionings of the body, that happen by themselves. Most people have never seen the states of the body, and the course that it takes, according to reality, like this. And then, through ignorance, we create another kind of suffering to mess up our lives, namely nama dukkha. Nama that we have not trained yet, nama that thinks according to what one likes, wants, and desires, nama that is still full of attachment, concocting up thoughts and views based on a self. This is another kind of suffering that we don't know about yet. This is a kind of suffering that is something unfortunate in our lives, that we have never studied or tried to understand. This nama has never been trained, has never treated rupa, nor one's own life fairly. But as soon as we see, train, and refine ourselves, and we know how to arouse and establish awareness, waking ourselves up, the very quality of sati acts as the judge. It is the most honest court. The kind of suffering that doesn't arise from dukkha, from the natural state of the body, awareness discerns it. Awareness brings it to a halt. Nobody can stop dukkha, the ways of the body and of life. Those states just happen, we have to be aware of those conditions, to acknowledge, deal with them and look after them, so that there is a state of normality and happiness for as far as conditions allow. But the suffering that is due to thought, that is due to nama, that is due to all kinds of wants and desires, is a state that is something untoward. It arises because of our thinking and our beliefs. This is what awareness sees. It stops and pacifies that kind of thinking. Awareness knows how to put down and pull oneself away from thoughts, in those circumstances. Awareness really acts as the judge because when one is aware and awakened, it really treats rupa and nama, and one's mind, fairly. One's life begins to be different from how it used to be. Before, one used to be a slave of moods and desires, and one used to fall in the trap of thought all the time. Thoughts, speech, and all actions used to be dictated by moods, by one's own character, every moment, every time. But now the time has come to wake up and establish awareness. Our body then has more freedom, one doesn't have to be under the power of desire anymore. Like if one was addicted to cigarettes and betel nut, and used to roam around and booze. One has been a slave all the time of desires, to have and be on the sensual plane. As soon as one is awakened through sati, one abandons that sort of behavior at once. Awareness knows how to differentiate and it knows how to properly reflect, it really sees things. Oh, this clearly is suffering. How could I indulge in those things and be such a fool? The things that one used to wallow in and be intoxicated with, really drop off our minds. There is no more desire for cigarettes, betel nuts, and booze. One completely does away with those things. For example, myself, I used to be someone who believed in superstition and I trained myself, until I was an occult healer. I used to calculate auspicious occasions. I had all sorts of amulets and whatnot, a complete mess. Before I could go to sleep I had to recite all kinds of verses and chants. My room was full with sacred and holy objects. Flowers, incense, blessed water and so on. I used to chant incantations for at least an hour. Whenever I traveled somewhere I had to figure out the omens. What time to set out, in what direction etc. Going to the forest, I first protected myself from fierce animals with spells. There was really a lot of stuff. And then I met Luangpor Teean. I trained to develop awareness with him at the Budayana Forest, Loi Province, in 1966. For a full month I trained and strove, before I was able to establish awareness and arouse a state of being awake. The various things that I used to think about, believed in, and practiced by way of different ceremonies dropped off. They really dropped off me. Sati was crystal clear and I realized, oh, it really is because of thought, and my own firm belief that I indulged in those kind of views for many years. I was really going over the top at that time. Now I knew how to be aware, how to train and strive, doing walking meditation and rhythmic meditation. I practiced in the same way as you are doing here now. I trained in awareness, I trained and trained. From being carried away through thoughts and moods, I gradually became more aware and awake, awareness became more clear by itself. After there had been an upsurge of being aware and awake, I felt that my life had revived and strengthened, it was really more dynamic. I felt that my mind was happy and at ease. Many conditions certainly were more distinct than before. It felt like a mountain or a heavy weight, that had been weighing down my mind for ages had been lifted off my life, almost completely. I understood what old people meant when they said, heaven is in the heart, hell is in your own mind. This took on a profound meaning for me. Awareness stood out. It felt as if being aware and awake happened by itself. I didn't have to support it as much as when I first started out. Whatever I thought, said, did, the movements of the body, doing walking meditation, I really did all of it with awareness. I saw states, processes, and the proceedings of the things I thought and did, in a refined way. Regarding the thoughts and beliefs that I used to cling to, moods of love, like, anger and delusion, in fact, they didn't disappear from the mind in one go. It just felt that they had diminished a lot. They were not powerful, they were no longer the boss like before, when I couldn't establish awareness yet. Desire and ambition were still there, latent. They still showed their faces, once in a long time. Sometimes I would still think about this and that, without awareness. Even though I could establish awareness, and was well aware and awake, I still felt that I didn't have complete freedom from love, like, anger and delusion. Luangpor Teean warned to be careful of those things, to be careful of thought, and to be careful of the defilements of a practitioner of insight meditation, namely, being stuck on refined states of mind, such as too much joy, too much delight, too much peace and coolness, stuck on images that would appear, stuck on knowledge of this and that. All these things one should be careful of and not heedless, forgetting oneself and being fooled by them. And so I had to put forth more effort, but I felt that it wasn't as difficult and burdensome as in the beginning. This latter part of the practice could be called working with the mind. For the method I still used the posture of moving the body as a base. This is the sign for fixing on awareness. But now I felt more at ease. I would do the walking meditation in a leisurely fashion, and I would move the hands and arms in a relaxed and agile way. I was aware and saw the existing states and conditions of the body. The movements were very clear. There was no laziness or feelings of wanting to quit. There was no boredom, no uncomfortable feelings or dissatisfaction. And there was no confusion as before, at the beginning. But there were some occasions that my mind thought about things. It would reflect and analyze certain matters. These states would arise on their own. This would complicate things. Some of the things that I would think about I felt were important. For example, I would explain the Dhamma, in my mind, to someone I cared for, such as my friends or my family. Sometimes I would investigate and try to find an answer to a Dhamma question. I felt that each matter that I reflected on was important. And so, at times I would forget and just get caught up in thinking. The various thoughts that would appear at times were old habits. They were cankers flowing outward, asava, they were manifestations of views and opinions, they were thoughts and beliefs in various forms of myself. They would spring up sometimes. Therefore, during the time that one is working with the mind, and one sees the states of mind, and one's own thinking, one really needs to be aware and awake and to be able to establish awareness. One has a perspective. No matter what one is thinking about, and no matter how important it may seem, always be aware clearly and see those conditions arising. When one is careless and thoughts come up, and even when one starts to think, see it and know it in time. But don't be careless and get mixed up in thinking, and let it turn into an issue, to the point one completely forgets oneself. We must take awareness as our perspective. Awareness should always stand out. Then, one can really let go and put down those images, without grasping or paying attention to them. Always come back to being aware. Regardless of how powerful, delightful, or awful thoughts may be, establish awareness and make it into a foundation. When thoughts arise, let them be there, but, see their characteristics. Just be clearly aware and don't get mixed up with thought. Neither encourage nor obstruct thoughts. Do it like this. Hold on to this principle. It won't be long and those thoughts will stop on their own. They will fade and disappear by themselves. They will turn into rising images. Just watch, see, and know their temporary rising and passing. In the end, awareness will still be as stable and prominent as it originally was. Actually, the method here is the same as when we first trained to establish awareness. The only difference is that, in the beginning of our training in the development of awareness, we put emphasis on establishing awareness, on breaking through the encirclement of the various objects, and so we give emphasis to focusing on the movements of the body. We do this exclusively in order to have a foundation, or sign in training in the setting up of awareness. We create awareness because in the beginning of our training, states of mind and mood still have power. We are still accustomed to thinking, and this gives rise to some kind of mood that we are familiar with from the past. So we are not yet interested in watching and seeing thought, as we are in the later stages of working with the mind, because one who is not able to establish awareness is like someone without a place to stand. One easily loses one's footing and slips. When we watch thought or powerful moods, we get drawn into feelings of like and dislike, we tend to get carried away with things that look as if they're easy to watch. We can't yet differentiate between the object and awareness. Even though we know and see that we experience a certain condition, we are still not able to give it up and put it down. For this reason, one is taught to make effort with one aim, namely to train in order to be able to establish awareness, to be aware and awake, to be ready, including all things. This is the priority. Make use of the postures and movements of the body as signs and exercises to train in focusing on awareness. No need to be very concerned with thought or your state of mind. When we get to the point where we have established awareness, the mind is awake and we have a perspective on life, that's it. Now we have the ability to face thought, to see the mind, to see the stream of our own thinking in a straightforward way, without our mind slipping and sliding, getting caught up in thoughts. Therefore, only someone who knows how to set up awareness will be successful in working with the mind, someone who arouses both awareness and a sense of being awake. This period is important for getting to know oneself in a straightforward manner. One comes to know how to let go and put down one's moods, thoughts, beliefs, and conceited opinions, really becoming absolutely free. What kind of character and disposition did we used to have? What kind of things did we think about and believe in? To what extent did we have moods of love, anger, and delusion? We will really see our mind states, clearly as they occur, in a simple way. From the conditionings of mind that come up in thoughts, turning into moods, issues, and various matters, periodically or momentarily, Yanadasana, knowledge and vision, arises, one really gets to know oneself. Oh, this is how I think, I get angry this much, this is what I believe in. One will see conditions one by one, according to the thoughts that appear momentarily, relying on the perspective of life, the main principle, knowing how to establish awareness, being in control with awareness and being awake. The mind doesn't flow and comply with the moods and thoughts. Wisdom knowledge will arise within us, and we will be able to reflect and differentiate between desires and reality. We will know how to let go, we will know how to put down thoughts, put down delusion, put down images and moods that proliferate. We can pull ourselves out of thoughts and beliefs we used to cling to, and were firmly convinced of. Clinging is loosened and one returns to awareness that has never been so striking before. Views and opinions of all sorts get demolished more and more, one after the other. And in the end our minds are made smooth. Our minds don't go back to creating suffering and problems through concoction anymore. It has all been demolished. Proliferating thoughts, sankhara, that used to be so powerful and used to create heavy suffering in our lives and our families, are finally done with, their poison is really gone. Life is smooth. One is able to conduct one's life with intuitive awareness, sati sampajanya, as the prominent factor. One is able to be creative and perform one's duties and obligations as one should. One is calm, composed and endowed with discretion. One is able to reflect and discriminate A from B. One is really absolutely free and independent. Well, what I've said today was an introduction, and a pointing to a line of practice to train oneself. I have made known the teachings of the Buddha and done the duty of a Buddhist. I have done what a bhikkhu, monk, should do. There is the saying of the Buddha, Arogaya Paramalabha, being free from disease is the greatest gain. This refers to what I've been talking about, it refers to our lives, it refers to this method of practice. In the old days, the monks would go all over the country, and propagate the teachings on the end of suffering in the marketplace, or wherever many people would gather. It is the highest gain. It is eternal life. I think that I have performed my duty in a complete way, and have satisfied the request of the abbot of this monastery. This talk was given in a branch monastery in the south. May all of you, who have lent an ear, take up what has been said for contemplation, and put the various reflections and perspectives into practice. Determine to train and cultivate yourself, so that you will attain the paths and fruits of practice according to your aspirations. The art of knowing directly. I bow to the Triple Gem, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. I pay respects to the senior monks and all my colleagues in the Dhamma. May all lay practitioners prosper in the Dhamma. You've come here to listen to words. If you remember the words having listened to them, then you will receive something that is fake. But it is necessary to speak and teach. Talking in order to give rise to knowledge and memory is easy, it's easy to teach and understand. There are teachers all over the place. All of us sitting here now, at a monastery where a retreat is held, have knowledge of good and bad, of right and wrong. Everybody knows that. For example, we know that anger and suffering are no good. We know that, but we still suffer and still have anger. Now, in real teaching we have to teach ourselves, we have to teach ourselves to really understand. We might learn some things from others, it will make it easier to remember, but real teaching we have to do ourselves. In talking today we are all friends, spiritual friends. On this occasion we all become fellow practitioners, so that we can meditate and practice together. This is a good thing and it is right. In real teaching we have to teach ourselves. Even talking and listening are practices in themselves, practices in developing awareness. Don't be united in anything other than developing awareness. Be aware, pure awareness. Be aware in a straight and direct way, straight and direct sati. Feel the body directly, in a straight way. Be fully aware, don't let there be anything in front or behind. This is called really teaching oneself. Let awareness move around, let it be with the body, with rupa. And let awareness see the mind. When there are thoughts, don't prevent or obstruct anything, give awareness the full opportunity, to see. As for the body, know directly and straightly, know purely. Use and search for whatever ways that makes you have awareness within your body. Make it direct and straight, know immediately. But some people don't do it like this. Before, I was the same myself, I didn't know directly and straightly. I reserved it and knew other things and there were thoughts. Why do we do it like this? One goes and uses reasoning, figuring out what is right and what is wrong. Like this is right. There is like and dislike. Why do we practice like that? What's the point of knowing this and that? For example, when we are aware, we ask ourselves, am I aware or not? Is this sati or not? Is this kind of knowing, awareness? Or is it thought? Sometimes we're thinking, and we don't know what awareness is, and so there is a division all the time. Reasoning and perceptions of right and wrong come to interfere with practice, and so one doesn't practice fully. No, 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 be aware. When you start off practicing you shouldn't use reasoning and think about what is right and wrong. Don't do it like that. Know directly, using whatever method that makes you be aware of either the body or the mind. Don't concentrate. Don't think about right and wrong before you experience right and wrong, don't think about being and seeing before you actually are and see. That's not it. It is wrong when something is wrong, it's right when something is right, you are when you are, and you see when you see. Be aware directly, don't concentrate and don't use reasoning. You shouldn't think, from now on there is no need to think. When there is awareness of the body and the mind for a long period, seeing automatically occurs. This is not called thinking, it is called discrimination, dhammavidyaya, or orderly reflection, yoniso-manasikara, it differentiates and wisdom knowledge or wisdom arises by itself. This is called practicing directly, for example we raise the arm or we turn up the hand, just know it directly. Feel your arm moving, feel your hand moving, feel the movements. Actually, this method that we're practicing was different before, in the past it was not practiced as we do now. But Luangpor Teean adapted it, making it more practical. In the past it was called the method moving stopping, in Thai, Ting Ning. One would put the hands on the knees, turn up the hand and think or inwardly recite, moving, Ting, and when a movement would come to an end, stopping, Ning, Ting, Ning, Ting, Ning. They would use it like a mantra, a word to keep reciting mentally. This is not direct, it's not straight. There are still these words that obstruct the immediate experience of the movements. Luangpor Teean developed this method by not having any recitation, just feeling directly, being aware without using words, just feeling. Doing it like this, one knows. The characteristic of feeling is to know specifically, but it is not a poking kind of knowing. One knows. Luangpor demonstrates it at the same time, know like this, don't fix on things. Some people know in a concentrated way, they concentrate and follow the movements, this makes awareness into something with a time span, whereas awareness should be momentary, moment by moment. Doing it like that, it becomes into a practice in tranquility meditation, which it should not be. That may well make one feel uncomfortable and discontented, or stiff in the chest area, sleepy or all tense. To know directly is to know in a cheerful and clear way. Knowing. In one sequence of movements one knows 14 times. This is pure knowing. Don't let there be any separation, let the quality of knowing really contact the body. Let them really come into contact with each other. When one knows in this way, one will become skilled for sure. When there is experience, for example, our hand often comes into contact with something, we are bound to become skilled. I used to be a little bit of an artist as a musician. It is an art in itself to contact with one's fingers the holes of a flute or the hammer of a xylophone. The fingers contact the holes of the flute and the most melodious sound is brought out. But when we push too hard, it is a kind of concentration and the sound will not be as good. If we go and count the holes in the flute, we can't play well, because the finger movements have to be just right in order to produce the right tone. Being aware and contacting the body directly and straightly, is an art. There is no need for reasoning, know in a pure way. Know in a sober and clear way. When you really make contact with the feeling, it is an art, you will be skilled in it, and you will know crystal clear. To really contact and feel the body is not just ordinary knowing, it is development in itself. We might compare it to having a livelihood. When we're not doing it right, we waste a lot of energy. When we know the movements through reasoning, through concentrating or by forcing ourselves, then we waste lots of energy. Some people put forth effort, doing both the formal practice of sitting and walking meditation, and their faces go all sour, they're all tensed up, that's too heavy. When we do it in the right way, it is not heavy, rather, it is light, comfortable, and we feel cheerful. Doing it like that, one tends to forget the time. But some people force themselves too much, that's neither straight nor direct. Awareness is happiness and justness from the beginning, it sorts things out for us by itself, and it makes one feel and recollect clearly, step by step. Be in the middle, watch inside as well as outside, don't go in, don't go out. When I was a kid, I used to go with my mother to plant melons and beans. When the rains would start and my mother would plant the seeds, she used to say, "If people eat it, it is merit, if birds eat it, it's a gift, if birds eat it, it is merit, if people eat it, it's a gift." This attitude makes one feel at ease. But without this attitude, we may do things thinking this way and that about making a profit or making a loss. This is wasting energy. Sometimes we even count the days, I've practiced so many days already, and I still don't have any knowledge. Some people do know, it's so easy for them. One gets bogged down in thought like this and one cooks things up. The result is that it is our thinking, our delusion that is practicing Dhamma. We practice but we still get deluded. We know and then we don't know, we stay with the knowing and then we are without the knowing, we're doing it wrong and then we do it right. When one is caught up in thought, how is one going to see thought? It is like being inside a cave. When I first started to practice, Luangpor Teean told me to go inside my hut and said, "Close the door." "It's closed, Luangpor." He asked, Do you see outside? I don't. What do you do in order to see inside as well as outside? Open the door, Luangpor. All right, open the door. I opened the door and stood in the middle of the entrance. Luangpor Teean asked, do you see outside? I said yes. Do you see inside? Yes. This is the way to do it like this. Having said that, he disappeared. What does it mean? It means to know directly. Don't be caught up in thought, don't go for it, don't be it. Don't be the one who is wrong or right, the one who gets or doesn't get. If it is like that, it's like there is a screen preventing us from seeing, there is no directness, no straightness. There is no openness and nothing is revealed. Just awareness, not wanting, not being. Try it out, knowing directly. Take one step at a time. Know directly, don't figure out what is right and wrong, don't go for attaining and not attaining, there is nothing to attain, there is nothing to not attain. There is nothing right and there is nothing wrong. If there is just pure awareness, there is no right and wrong, there is no knowing, and there is no not knowing, there is only just pure awareness. Give awareness the full opportunity. Just as with planting rice, if we don't plant it well, it won't come up. It's the same with chilies, eggplants, and fruits, they need to be planted properly. But if we know how to plant these things, it will be just right and there will be a balance, the roots will sprout and the plants will establish themselves. If we plant them in the wrong way, the roots won't flourish and they may break, the wind blows and they shake about. We have to keep replanting them, and the end result is that they don't grow well. Try it out. I'm teaching you, so that you will practice, I'm not talking just to give you information. We have come here and so we must try and practice. Practice directly and straightly. At one time I returned from Singapore, and I stopped over at Hat Yai, south of Thailand. Somebody brought a Westerner to see me. This Westerner said in a straightforward way, there is no need to teach me anything, just tell me what to do. I know many things already, so it's better to tell me what to do rather than to teach me things. What do you think of that? I feel that that is very good. So I told him how to start. Karma means action. It means to feel. Do you know the movement of turning up the hand? Do you know the movement of raising the arm? No, no, and no. I had him practice like this for half an hour, and after that I showed him how to do walking meditation. Know every step that you walk. Whenever he took a step, I knocked him with my hand on his arm, no like this, no like this. Knowing, knowing, feeling. I had him walk for half an hour and then called him over, and let him do the rhythmic meditation in the sitting position again. He got into contact with sati, with awareness of the body. I asked him, just now, you were aware of the body, did your mind think of other things? No. One is right here, one knows right here. Have you ever known like this for a long time, let's say for a whole day? Never. What about 1 hour? No, never. He just learned about this now. This is how I taught. This point is the point that we, as Thai Buddhists, are lacking in. We are not lacking at other points, it is this point. This is the point where Buddhism comes into being. The Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha arise right here, that is to say their qualities. We have to give rise to them right here, this is their birthplace, the birthplace of the state of being Buddha that knows, that goes in and knows. Don't destroy this state. And so we have opportunities, we have places such as this one, it is not as if we practice because it is the fashion. We don't advertise that we do anything else. To perform rites and rituals, make merit and offerings and so on is not the right way. To do it right in line with real awareness one has to practice like this. We have to spur each other on to practice, to live like this. The activities of Buddhism have to start off with this method, we can't deny it. We need places and the environment, and we have to persuade each other to come and practice like this. In the mornings and evenings, there are Dhamma talks as well as practice. This gives good encouragement. And so we come together to practice in this style. What I'm saying now is not for memory, it is for practice. Putting it into practice in our bodies and minds, coming into contact with ourselves. When I use the word sati, we know, we feel it at the same time that we hear it. The things I talk about exist in us, they are there, in all of us. The more I talk, the more we see ourselves. What do we see? We see what I'm talking about. For example, feeling, we all feel, even when we don't do anything in particular. When we are skilled, we don't necessarily have to make movements with the hands and arms, we just sit there. Feelings are there already, the blinking of the eyes can be felt, breathing can be felt. The quality of knowing that knows the blinking of the eyes, is feeling, it is sati. The quality of knowing that knows breathing, is feeling, is sati. Even when we don't do anything special, there is awareness, no matter where we are, even when we just sit there, there is awareness. Spiritual friends, inner sages, the paths and fruits of practice. May the words I speak be your spiritual friend. Kalyana Mitta, awareness is our spiritual friend. Associate with these things, associate with the sages. I don't mean to associate with this or that person, that is good also, those are the external sages, but the real sage is within, awareness. Try to associate with awareness for 7 days. To know directly and straightly is called, associating with the sages. Do you see that? When the Buddha expounded the first discourse, Dhammajjokhappavatthana Sutta, to the group of 5 disciples, the Brahmin Gondhanyo opened his Dhamma eye, reached the first stage of enlightenment. He was the first monk disciple of the Buddha. A few days later, the other 4, Vappa, Padya, Mahanama and Asachi, also opened their eyes. The Buddha pointed to and talked about the 2 extreme modes of practicing which should not be followed through, Kamesu Gama Sukali Kanu Yogo, and Athahiki Lamatanu Yogo. The path is the middle way, the path for the mind to walk, the path of the mind is called, Magga. Magga or the path, is this awareness. Awareness or the quality of watching, of seeing, of knowing, is called the path. Whoever is always aware is walking the spiritual path. The path is a vehicle, it is as if one rides in a vehicle that leads one onwards. As the Buddha mentioned the path, Gondhanyo was practicing in awareness. Finally, the Buddha presented the Anathalakkana Sutta, the discourse on the characteristic of not-self, as follows. Is form permanent? Answer, no, it isn't. Does something that is impermanent have value or not? It doesn't. Should something that is quality-less be clung to, as a self or oneself? Obviously not. This way of teaching by the Buddha, by inquiring, is not telling people, rather, people see for themselves. This is teaching in order to see, in actual fact, one teaches oneself. Another person can teach one to know, but in order to be, one has to teach oneself. Can you do it now? Do you have awareness within your body yet? Try again. When walking, feel it, feel it. Sometimes thoughts come up. What do you do when that happens? Well, be aware. Be aware. Focus. Know the body, as it is moving. When there is awareness, are there still thoughts coming up? Can you solve the problem this way? Can you change thoughts into awareness? You can. As soon as awareness arises, the thoughts stop. So, know the movements of the body well. A thought comes up one time and one knows the body, one time. This knowing is the right way to teach oneself. Teach yourself often. The more thoughts the better. But some people are interested whether the thoughts are right or wrong. They think that thinking is wrong. On thinking, see the thought, there is no right or wrong, there is just seeing, seeing thought, knowing thought. As soon as one feels that there is a thought, everything comes to an end. On seeing thought, skill arises. The state of seeing thought, seeing it often, is an art. It is like seeing somebody's face. When you see somebody for the first time, you might forget again, but when you see somebody many times you become familiar. This not just ordinary knowing, you know his or her character, what kind of person this is, whether you should connect with him or her or not. Some people see thought, and think that it is wrong. When a thought pops up, it's wrong. This is wrong understanding. That's not right. This is similar to that time that I was up at the monastery on top of the hill at Bohome village, Luangpor Teean's village, in my early days of practice. Luangpor Teean wanted me to stay there at that time. There were many people practicing. I was doing walking meditation with another monk. He was lower than me because it was a hill. When he got tired he sat down, and then I heard these strange slapping noises, pat, pat. He slapped his own head with his slippers. I walked over and asked, "What are you doing?" He said, "The mind thinks all the time, I don't know why, it's crazy." This is not seeing thought anymore, he got caught up in it for sure. He was punishing himself for it. Doing it like this is to go in the wrong direction. It is like planting rice and pulling it out again, they won't take root, there won't be results. Therefore, when thought arises, don't consider it to be good or bad, just see it directly. Thought is useful, we'll get to see it. There is nothing wrong with it. Thought arises, that's good, we'll see it and be aware of it. Knowing it in a cheerful way. On seeing happiness you go, on seeing suffering, heat, cold, This is Vipassana, insight, in small ways. This is being a meditator. If you are the one who is right or the one who is wrong, then you have taken birth and you are caught up, you are still deluded. There is no knowing. This quality of knowing is completely neutral. It can be applied to anything, it is absolutely fair and can be used with everything. We're not looking for faults, I don't like wrong, I like what is right, I like knowing, I don't like not knowing, it is not like this. If it's like that, the quality of knowing will not prosper, it gets cut and divided up, it gets separated all the time. Do you understand what I'm saying? Have you realized this? When you know, are you satisfied, and when you don't know, do you feel sad? When it's wrong you feel ill at ease, and when it's right you feel good. In the past, I've asked people, having short interviews with them at Sukato Forest Monastery. A lot of people used to come to practice. I asked a girl how things were going. She said, "Today it was a real hassle, I don't know what I was thinking, I was all tense. It wasn't like yesterday. Today I was really in a mess." I said to her, "This is not the way that a meditator talks, try saying it another way." She thought for a while and then said, "Today I saw the mind thinking, I saw it being tense." That's the way to talk. In the first version she was caught up, but in the latter she saw it, she became smart. The words I am, are no good, the words I see, are fine. Do you understand? What is it like for us here? Being or seeing? This is the point of separation. Insight, Vipassana, does the separating, at this point. Things are melting, being digested, dissolving into emptiness. Until there is no self. The way to arrive at the path and fruits of practice, is by this way. This exists within us. It shows us the way. The path is sure, the path is to watch, to see. The things that arise with the body or the mind, they arise so that we can watch and see. Do you see? Especially in the mind, there are lots of things that come up for us to look at. Has there been any gladness these last few days? Did you see it? Have you ever seen happiness? Have you ever seen suffering? These things come up for us to see them. What about satisfaction? Have you seen it? Dissatisfaction. This is the path. If one sees, then there is the path. The middle way. The way to get to the path and the fruits of practice is right here. At the point of seeing and not being caught up. Things arise in order for us to see. Some people may experience tension. Do you see tension? Some people may experience dullness. Do you see dullness? Others may see thought. Do you see it? One cannot grasp hold of the mind, there is just seeing and seeing. Develop this state of watching and seeing a lot. Develop the quality of seeing a lot. See the body moving, see the raising of the arm, see the lowering of the arm. Know and see. Knowing and seeing. When things arise that we don't want, things that we didn't intend, see that also. For example, thought, we didn't ask for it, it just arose. When we see thought, thought comes to an end. When we fix our awareness, the quality of knowing does not fail, as we might think. It is good to have thoughts arising. This way we get to see them, see the mind thinking. Sometimes many things come up, happiness, for example, and one is smiling inwardly. Don't grasp it, don't be it. Establish yourself on the specific characteristic of a meditator, watching, seeing, and not being. This is not wrong, and this way you won't waste time. But some people get caught up and waste lots of time. They get caught in joy, calmness, visions, defilements due to insight, analytical knowledge, and all sorts of things. They fall in the well of knowledge, and know this and that. One wastes lots of time this way. There is no need to know all that but see it. It is like coming here by car from another province. On arriving here there is no need to teach about the things that one has seen as one passed through. But some people will stop and rest when they get to a nice shady tree, others get sunburned. They get caught up and grasp onto the states that they come across. Just pass through. Don't want anything. Some people want this and that, right and wrong. This is desire, I want. This is not right. Especially when it comes to the mind, one cannot grasp hold of it, there is just seeing and seeing. When there is real suffering, the Dhamma becomes valuable. Maybe some people don't understand. Never mind. I'll just talk anyway. When you're in a bad way, you may search for it, and it may be useful at that time. Yesterday I talked with Luangpor Teean. He said, with what I'm saying I'm not giving people knowledge now, that may not be possible, but in another 20 to 30 years from now, people may come to realize it, or when they are down and out, because they have heard these teachings, they may look for a way out and practice until they know. For example, I say, don't be caught up, watch. Maybe, when we bear great hardship, we suffer and it hurts a lot, that we recollect what I said, watch it. And then we watch. The state of watching will probably help to solve the problem. When we come into contact with the state of watching, we might be released and liberated from that condition. We may be able to let go and put things down. At present, there may still be plenty of excitement for things, maybe we want this and that, there is no suffering yet. But when suffering arises, Dhamma will be valuable. So I'll talk just in case, so that you may hear it. But actually it is not beyond us to practice, and that is why we meditate. Intention is what classifies beings. Let's start from here. We watch the body, really feel and make contact with it. Sometimes, as we're watching the body, something comes to interfere and it makes us lose it, it incites delusion. Thought, for example, or drowsiness, and the various hindrances. 5 hindrances are listed by the Buddha, namely sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubt and uncertainty as the last. It is our chance to see them, to see that which is wrong and that which is right. See both right and wrong. This is called having arrived on the path. The things that make us deluded, such as the hindrances and proliferating thoughts, will be seen by us. But some people go and get caught up in them. These things are not without value, they teach us valuable lessons when we get deluded. But some people judge delusion, considering it to be wrong. This is a cause for failure in practice. It is not like that. When there is delusion, we give rise to knowing. This is a valuable lesson. In this way we get experience. The moment delusion is there once, we have one valuable experience. When many thoughts arise that induce delusion, or sleepiness, we know, and we relate to these things in the right way. These things then have value for us. It is like learning at school. The teacher teaches when the children make a mistake. He or she teaches how to write the letter A. When a child writes an E, the teacher sees that it is wrong and corrects it. This way the children learn to correct their mistakes at the time that they make them. This is valuable. But if a child makes a mistake and the teacher doesn't teach, it is bad fortune for that child. We are the same. When there is something wrong, and we are the one who is wrong, this is our misfortune. But when something is wrong and we see it, and we solve the problem, this is our good fortune. Mistakes are teachers. But what someone else says is wrong is another thing. As we practice here, we know our own mistakes. Whenever we see something wrong, we change it into right. When we see suffering, we change it into no suffering. When we see anger, we change it into non-anger. This is up to us. Others can't help us with it. Others do not see the thoughts in our minds. But we can see it. Other people don't see the anger, desire, delusion, defilements, craving, lust, and torpor in our minds. We have to see it ourselves. We might see these things in other people a little bit, from external expressions, but there is nothing we can do about it. But when we see these things in ourselves, we can solve it. Try it out. Don't think you are powerless. As soon as sleepiness comes up, one yawns and drops off to sleep. This is called falling for it. If you get easily sleepy, then find some way to do something about it. Don't just give in to it. Fight it a bit. Try looking up to the sky or the top of a tree. Look around you, look far away in the distance. Imagine it is daytime. That's not the time to lie down. This is the time to practice. Nighttime is the time to lie down. If it doesn't disappear, then get up and wash your face or take a shower. Fight it a bit. Don't sit there nodding about. If that is the case, you've really lost it. We have to be awake. Open your eyes, fully, and be aware. You can do it. It can be changed, it can be solved. Meditation means to do good a lot. The words hapathipati in Pali language, and hapathipat in Thai, mean to practice. The prefix, hapatha, means to come back, to return or to solve. It is not a matter of doing sitting and walking meditation all day long, but never solving the problems. One thinks for an hour or two while practicing. That is not putting forth effort. It is laziness. A practitioner is one who changes wrong into right, delusion into non-delusion. Whenever there is delusion, change it immediately. This is useful. When something is wrong, change it, know it immediately. Practice. To practice is to change. Meditation means to do good a lot, make that which is harmful into something good. This is called meditation. What is goodness? Awareness that we're training ourselves in is goodness. Perform this kind of goodness and do it a lot. Recitation is to keep a certain word in the mind, for example, Buddho, Sama Arahant, etc. In the past, I learned verses. I had to recite in order to become invulnerable. That is recitation. Sometimes we use the wrong word. We may call the recitation of the word Buddho meditation. It is not. It is recitation. As for the word meditation, it means to cut off, to just be aware, to feel movements with sati. Now is the time to practice. I've already explained how. Know what arises, don't know at any other place. In the beginning of the training, know at the body, not anywhere else. Take the body as the sign. Consider the body as the material or tool to produce awareness. The body is part of nature. When one sees the body, one has to see the mind too. A person consists of a body and a mind, and so this is what we learn from. These are our scriptures. The path, the fruits of practice and nibbana are right here. The hell realm, the hungry ghosts, and the thick-headed demons, are to be found right here. Realize this. Don't be fooled by things. Don't let the body or mind fool you. This mind can be developed to the end, until there is no more suffering. To be aware is to study. Awareness or sati will become skilled in the ways of the body and mind. It is right here where you will finish your studies. Students study at various institutes. When they finish they have what you call a PhD. But awareness is the real study. The word study means to integrate. One sees sila, samadhi, and jnana. It is awareness that studies the body and the mind, until it is skilled. It could be called full knowledge, parinyat. As I said this morning, there are three kinds of full knowledge. 1. Yatha parinyat, full knowledge by way of recognition. 2. Dhyana parinyat, full knowledge by way of clarification. This is rupa, this is nama, this is suffering of rupa, of nama, this is disease of rupa, of nama, this is convention, constitution, and ultimate meaning. 3. Upahana parinyat, full knowledge by way of abandoning. Some things in the mind can be absolutely abandoned, completely changed. The mind can be developed, don't think it is a hopeless job. As I said before, someone who is angry is at the end of one's rope. If not, then there is no problem, just normal. The state of watching is normality. Normality is the spiritual inheritance. Complete normality, until there are no more changes. Until it is stable. Attain to this state. You have the right to. The thing that leads one to normality is the state of watching and seeing, and having seen not being caught up. The mind returns more and more to normal, it becomes pure. The pure mind does not get concocted. This is the spiritual life. The spiritual life doesn't mean a shaven head and yellow robes. The living of the spiritual life is this. Awareness. Knowing a lot, knowing often, being aware often, and the mind will gradually get purified. When the mind is pure, and stealthy thoughts come up, it doesn't want them, they are wrong. When anger arises, it doesn't want it even more, it is wrong. Restlessness, defilement, and worry, that's not it. That's not normality. The mind is like that, if it is not right, it doesn't want it. The mind sees and solves, it sees and doesn't want. But some people don't know, they'll take on everything. They go for happiness, delusion, like and dislike. They get caught up in all things. This one mind can be caught up in thousands of things. Then there is no freedom. No spiritual life. No purity. No normality. This way of practicing of us, has definitely not changed for over 2,500 years, it still stands up to verification, it is a science because it stands up to verification. The religion that will lead the world is Buddhism. These days, scientists say that the religion that will lead the world is Buddhism. Women will lead society, men will be followers. Buddhism will be the leading religion. Especially this method of using movements through the rhythmic meditation, is very popular with educated people everywhere, both in Thailand and abroad. The reason for this is that it can be experienced, it is because we teach people what is true. Try it, raise your arm, do you feel it? This method of knowing challenges people, it can be proven, there are results. It is not limited to sex, age or nationality. It can be used and contacted by all. This is the most universal method. It is our good fortune, that 30 years ago it was Luangpor Teean who set the fashion. It is most appropriate to every sex and age group. As Luangpor Teean used to say, don't take age to be an obstacle, awareness is the same for all. Therefore, I say that it is appropriate, that it is universal. It is not important whether one is male or female, whether one is educated or not. Just be aware, that's all there is to it. Nowadays it is getting popular. I have taught in many countries, I let people test it out. And everyone accepts it. It is real. It is a science. The body and the mind really exist, sati really exists. When awareness comes in to know the body and mind, then all things are stopped or tamed. This is the result of being aware of the body and mind. This is the most complete development of life, all suffering disappears, one gains good health and even the economy becomes better. Jump when you fall of the ladder. Before I came here, I gave a talk at Mukdahan province. I talked about the same thing. I'm not boasting, but since I've been practicing I hardly ever get sick, my health is really excellent. That is because of the development of life and I'm looking after it. The Dhamma will protect one. The Dhamma inevitably looks after the practitioner. So don't doubt. We try to be aware, there is no beginning and ending, as with this retreat that started on January 20, 1996 and ends on January 28, 1996. Try to understand, experience awareness, and when you go back home, watch. Watch yourself while sweeping up, washing clothes and doing the dishes. Prepare yourself, it may be useful. Jump when you fall of the ladder. This is a simile for dying. This may turn into an art. Now, we're not falling of the ladder yet, we're not using this knowledge yet. But it is good to know about it now. Maybe when the time comes, we'll use this knowledge so that we don't get our skull cracked. Maybe it will be a kind of sport. Luangpor Teean used to say that it really is like that. Now, we are still alive, the breath still goes in and out. But when the time really draws near, this knowledge may be our close friend. Luangpor Teean said that, even though we don't have realization now as we practice, but about 10 to 20 minutes before we die, we may get it, it may be useful. During the Rains retreat last year, my uncle died. Before he died I went over for a chat. He was a Dhamma practitioner, he practiced up to the final stage. He said that now he was fine, he could control everything. Whatever I asked him he could answer. But if you're not in control, then don't be downhearted. Don't cry and don't think of other things. The present it right here. It is here, where one is not caught up in anything. One is watching things. But if you don't have control you may be dumbfounded. Whatever arises is an object. Children, don't be alarmed, just watch it. Right now, Father is watching it, there is nobody who is born, nobody who gets old, nobody who is sick and nobody who dies. This is investigation, it is safe, there is just seeing. But some people are not like this. I told you before about this grandma, who had been fishing all her life, her children held her hands but she struggled to get free, because she was delirious and imagined that she was torturing fish. This is a hungry ghost or a hell being. What a pity to be born as a human being, and waste your life like this. Proving the facts. Where have we been these last 5-6 days? Some people may have been with their children, some people may have been angry with this or that person. Don't go out. Stay right here. Stay with the movements of the hands. Watch out, you'll become delirious. Prepare yourself like this. When the time comes, there should be peace. Consciousness, they call it. Now, we are still stuck, but we know. It goes out, come and stay right here. This will give rise to skill. You get stuck and you know. This is the state that is not born, doesn't age, isn't painful and doesn't die. It is not a place or a house somewhere. It all starts off with awareness, it leads us to safety. And in the end it leads us to the paths and fruits of practice. Every moment of awareness is a step. The mind goes out and we feel. Know a lot, enter into things with the quality of knowing. Both merit as well as virtue and generosity, and even liberation are to be found at this point. Awareness has already cut off a number of things. When we are aware we pass through evil, through revenge, there is no enmity, there is no ill will, there is no love and no hate. Do you see that awareness leaves these things behind? Awareness knows, knows, and knows. It is the end of revenge, the end of danger, it is beyond everything. Is this real or not? This is genuine, this is real. Don't let anyone fool you. These days we get fooled a lot. Some people threaten us with hell and fool us with heaven. This is all external stuff. Try this out and prove it. Don't believe me, everybody should prove it for oneself. Make contact with awareness and prove the facts for yourself. I'm talking about the possibility. I'm your spiritual friend. Whether what I'm saying is right or wrong, you have to see for yourself. Practice today, do the rhythmic meditation. Be devoted to just this, with your whole heart. Do it fully. Whether you do walking meditation or do the rhythmic meditation, sitting under a tree, try to arouse awareness. Little knowing will turn into knowing more. This is our inheritance, our noble treasure. Build it up, you're still alive. Don't wait until you're dead, build it up now. Alright, what I've said comes from the way it is, it's not coming from memory. The things that I've been talking about, exist in everybody who is sitting here. With good intentions towards all beings that are determined, may all good qualities and the goodness that we have performed, be the power that will support and send you to the realization of the way it is, which is safety and immortality, no birth, aging, sickness, and death. 2 Dhamma fragments. A. Instructions. B. The straight way. Instructions, given at Buddha Mandala. The formal practice is really a formula in itself. One lifts up one's hand and one really knows. Raising the hand, one knows, lowering the hand, one knows, moving the head, one knows. No need to ask anyone. It is to be experienced for oneself in the moment. We know and see ourselves. We don't have to wait for even a split second. Turn up the hand and know, raise the arm and know, it is immediate. This is the real thing. What is real has to be verifiable, it is not a mind-made image. Don't go and think that it should be like this or that, just try it out and really experience it. Be aware. If you make the movements just right, one movement takes about 1 second. So in 14 seconds you complete one cycle of 14 movements, that is knowing 14 times. An hour is 3,600 seconds, if we know every time, then that is 3,600 moments of awareness, using the form of the rhythmic meditation. That's a lot. When there is knowing, there is no delusion. Suppose we stay with awareness for 2 whole days, or as the Buddha said, whoever has sati with the body and mind continuously, for either 1 to 7 days, 1 to 7 months or 1 to 7 years, will get one of 2 results, of which the highest is the attainment of arahantship, one who is far from enemies, impurities, one is a noble one, life is smooth, there is no danger. The Buddha challenged us with this. This is where we as Buddhists are lacking. Not anywhere else. Look at this park, Buddha Mandala, everything is huge. Thailand is a Buddhist country and all building projects get constructed. Except for awareness. Being with the body and the mind, there is not much of that yet. And so we're working on this. What happens when we are aware of the movements of the body and the thoughts in the mind? Try out to experience awareness. Steep the body and the mind in awareness, what will happen? Be aware for 10 minutes, 20, 30, an hour. Anybody who knows for an hour or 2 will know the difference between knowing and delusion. We will be able to make a choice, the mind will choose and take what is right. Delusion is not right. Awareness is right. The body can look after itself, when it is hot we take a shower, when it is cold we put on more clothes, when it is hungry we find something to eat, when it is tired we take a rest or a sleep. But the mind doesn't look after itself, unless it has been trained. It takes on suffering, it goes for anger, love, hate, like, dislike and so on. Sometimes it wants suffering and delusion. Some people go and buy delusion, they look for things to indulge in. They cannot remain still. Some people have never trained themselves. But when we train in awareness we can come into contact with it. Then we will be able to sort things out. We will side with awareness. But when we have never trained we don't know how to do that, and the mind will jump all over the place. If we train in awareness for 1 day or 2 days, the mind will come to look for awareness, because awareness is just. Delusion is not. Anger and suffering definitely are not just. We will know what to choose. The mind will choose what is right and safe. Now, when we don't train we don't have this ability, we can't do it and we don't know. Everybody has knowledge, has finished studies and is capable of making a living, but the mind hasn't yet come into contact with the justness of life. We know what is right and wrong according to reasoning. For example, we know that anger and suffering are not good, we know that, but we still get angry, even though we know that it is not good. That kind of knowledge is not good enough. One has to experience things. Reasoning is still convention, it is still not right. Sometimes people kill each other because of reasoning. But in practicing Dhamma, we experience things, we steep ourselves in awareness, we don't use reasoning, it is beyond reasoning, it is ultimate. Reasoning is still convention that is dependent on conditions. But ultimate reality is not reasoning, rather, it is a clear and evident experience. Seeing anger and non-anger has nothing to do with reasoning. Anger is not right. Non-anger is right. When we have experience we know that delusion is not right, and that non-delusion is right. When we have experience we don't have to ask anybody. There are no questions in reality, there is nothing to ask, there are only answers and one has to answer oneself, not somebody else. This is ultimate reality, the truth. And so, we are practicing with this. We've tried it out for 3-4 days already. Testing and proving it. We use the body and the mind for this. What's going on there? You shouldn't think and see before you actually see, be right or wrong before you're actually right or wrong. Sometimes we turn to thought to find an answer, it may not be right. It all depends on how we think. We can all think according to reason, but thought does not last. Really meeting with knowing and delusion is not thought. As soon as delusion arises we are aware. That's not reasoning, one dives into it. Whenever there is anger, be aware and anger will disappear. That's it. Our minds rise higher and become more pure, there is more experience, more lessons. We don't have to ask each other what is real. Experience and try it out yourself, dive into it. Soak the body and mind in awareness. Try and add awareness to the body. We have a form of practice, using intention. Everybody, put your hands on your knees. Try. Who is the one who knows where the hands are? Are you absolutely sure that the hands are on the knees? Suppose I tell you that your hands are behind you, do you believe me? Yes or no? No. Why not? Because you see and know. Who is the one who sees? Do you see it yourself or is somebody else seeing it for you? What is it that sees that the hands are on the knees? The eyes. Close your eyes, do you still see that the hands are on the knees? So it is not the eyes. That which knows that the hands are on the knees is called sati. The word satipatthana means the foundation or establishment of awareness. Establish the hands on the knees and be aware of them. Turn up the right hand. This is not the same as when it was still flat on the knee, is it? Are you sure? Raise the arm up a bit. Don't tense up or concentrate. Do it lightly and know. Now move your right hand to your abdomen. Then turn up your left hand. Raise the arm. Now put your left hand on top of your right. Do you feel what's going on? Where are your hands? You know. Slide the right hand up to the chest. You know. Move it out to the side. You know, don't you? Come down to the knee with the hand on its side. Then turn it over. Do it at ease, smiling inwardly. Don't say it is difficult. Move your left hand up a bit. No. Move it to the side. No. Lower it to the knee. No as it comes down. No as you turn it over. Each time there is awareness. If we would count, we would get 14 times, 14 movements, 14 moments of awareness. Make it into a rhythm, but don't count. No, no, no. No each second. Don't do it too slow. When you lose it, come back. Feel the hands. Don't lose it, don't concentrate, don't count. Know each time, as separate movements. This kind of knowing is not a continuous state, that would be tranquility meditation, and one won't see thought because it doesn't arise. But this kind of knowing is just knowing for a moment, from moment to moment. We are not afraid of thought, we'll get to see whatever arises and we'll return to awareness. Awareness is not thought, it is an experience. It is not memory. Even though the mind thinks at times, we know. Whenever thoughts arise that we didn't intend to think, thoughts that arise by themselves, don't follow those thoughts. Come back to the body, the hands, the mind goes off over there, but we return to the movements. Don't lose yourself in thought. When you do, or you lose yourself in painful feelings or tiredness, then try to come back to the movements. The meaning of practice is to come back. Find a point to establish awareness. It may slip off again and again, but we come back again and again. It gets better and better. It is like a baby trying to stand. As soon as they fall over, they will try again. They fall again and they try again. This makes babies firm. Training in walking and sitting makes them strong. Don't help them, let them get up by themselves. Tell them, get up, get up. Don't go and help them. We are the same, when we lose it we come back. Come back to the place to establish awareness. We have 14 such places. Keep doing that. It's only ordinary, that someone who has a job to do has some obstacles. People who work have aches, pains, tiredness and sweating, but they keep on working. Or farmers who are out in the sun, they have to continue planting rice, no matter what. Developing awareness is the same. Sometimes we have aches and we're tired, but don't let that stop you from making effort. Just know it and come back. Some people work at an office for hours on end, they had to train in that also. When aches arise, one has to adjust oneself. Don't let those feelings have power. Don't let them stop you practicing. To see them and to come back is to build up patience and strength in itself. It is to accumulate experiences and lessons. Sometimes we may get sleepy, try to wake yourself up. Stir up awakeness. Whatever method works, there is no fixed way. You might get up and walk, you might look up in the sky, you might rub your face with your hands or wash your face. Don't give in to the extent that you just forget about awareness. It is good to train with this. Sleepiness will teach us. Delusion and suffering will teach us. Whatever arises we use for training in awareness. Sleepiness, aches, delusion and thoughts, all are objects for awareness. They are all teaching us. We get plenty of teachings, because awareness is that which solves the problems of body and mind. Awareness is truth. It relates to the body and mind differently than, for example, medicine. For a specific disease such as a stomachache, one has to use a specific medicine. Awareness can be applied to all affairs of body and mind. Sleepiness, delusion, and thought make us aware. Developing awareness is really extremely convenient. Everything is an opportunity to know. Blinking the eyes and breathing can be known. Apart from the formal rhythmic meditation, you can train with this and with that. Sometimes too much formal practice can make one weary. We should change the posture then. Adjust yourself a bit. If we have been in the same posture for too long, we should make some change. Start anew. Make awareness prominent. A movie maker doesn't stay with one scene for too long. If sitting for a long time makes you sleepy, then get up and walk, so that the quality of knowing becomes clear. Don't let sleepiness and delusion become clear. Keep adjusting. Do it a lot and awareness will become distinct and big. It has power now, it is easy to know. When we can't do it yet, it is easy to be fooled. When delusion is mighty, it is a burden, and so we try to train anew, and make awareness precise and clear. Don't just go through the movements of the rhythmic meditation, do it with awareness. If you're not aware, then don't make movements. Do it slowly, be attentive. Jack up your heart, make it firm. No, no. Really no, don't just go through the motions. This will make you familiar and it will be easy to know. It is possible to understand the Dhamma and have realization fast. To know 50% and be deluded 50%, is not a good way to start off, and drowsiness will be a problem. Some people are habitual nodders. You must be awake. Be aware and smile inwardly. Be at ease, set your face, your body, and your heart at ease, don't think that it is difficult. Make yourself comfortable in practicing. We don't focus on what is right and what is wrong. Whatever happens is all right, never mind. A bit of delusion? Never mind. Enjoy yourself. Being overly careful makes the mind heavy, and then it's easy to become dull. But if you practice in a carefree way, it is fun to know. The straight way. May all of you be attentive and intentionally build up awareness, by using movements. Try it out, test it out, experience it. If we are aware of movements for a long time, awareness will abandon that which is no good. To be aware is to do that which is wholesome, and when there is awareness, the mind will gradually become clean, peaceful, and pure. The mind will be like a still lake without the wind blowing. The mind doesn't ripple, there are few objects of mind because of awareness. Awareness is what cleans them up and brings about a natural balance in the mind. Sati is awareness, it is nature, it is your friend. It makes the mind normal. When the mind is normal, it thinks only little. Because awareness makes it feel the present all the time. When there is awareness, the mind is pure. The purity of mind is what normality is. When the mind is normal, it is like still water. One can see fish in water that is still. One can see all sorts of things in the water. We can even see air bubbles of little fish. That is because the water doesn't ripple, we can see everything clearly. We can even see the reflection of our face in the water. Luangpor Teean said that, at the time that he was still practicing, it was as if somebody gave him a push when a thought came up. Oops, what was that? Another thought, and another whoops. Then, he saw it, the mind thinks. It is thought. The reason things happened like this, was because the mind was dwelling in normality. As soon as a thought would come up, that would make a big difference. Thought is something coarse. Before I didn't know that. I thought that the body was gross, but I no longer see it like that. When the mind dwells in a state of normality for 1, 2, or 3 days, the mind is pure, there isn't anything making it dirty. The mind experiences this pure awareness. Before, there would be thoughts and the mind would be soiled by them, there was no knowing at that time. I have been with thought for 20 to 30 years. But when there is good sati, the mind comes into contact with awareness, comes into contact with purity and normality. One could compare it with clean clothes. Or, compare it to being an adult. Before we were children and didn't know right or wrong, didn't know about cleanliness and dirtiness. On seeing mud we would go and play with it. And we didn't feel disgusted. But when one grows up to be an adult, one sees and knows about things. The mature mind, that is, the normal mind, the pure mind, experiences awareness, and on seeing thought, it perceives it as something out of the ordinary, as something gross. Luangpor Teean said, "A thought popped up like a sudden flash. When one sees thought clearly, one, automatically, opposes it. One sees it just like seeing air bubbles of fish in the water ripples, because of the bubbles, and we know. Even when it ripples a tiny bit, we still know, because normally the water is still. When your mind is normal, contacts with normality for 3, 4, 5 days. Some people may experience it to some extent. A thought arises and we see it once. A second thought comes and we see it a second time. We see thought. When there is thought, we know. When there is no thought, we know. When we watch, the mind becomes the watcher. We can watch anything. The mind is one, it is supreme. The act of watching goes straight into things. One could say it is people's weak point. One gets hold of that point. One has a point to watch from. When thoughts come, watch. If we just watch and see, that's the end of all the endless proliferation. The state of watching and seeing could be called liberation, it could be called letting go, it could be called sila, samadhi, and panya, insight knowledge, jhana, absorption, or the path. The state of watching is the thing that is most right. It can solve all things that are connected with the body and mind, that are connected with the world that exists in body and mind. It deals with form, sound, smell, taste, as well as the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind. The mind thinks, as soon as it thinks we know. The thought disappears. Seeing thought is wisdom. Seeing proliferation and changing it into peace, this is emancipation. Changing conditions, sankhara, into the unconditioned, visankhara. Changing hot into cool, nibbana. It is not difficult to do that, but if you make it difficult, then it is. If you say it's easy, then it is. Some people may experience nibbana, get a taste of it, in little ways. Maybe you'll come in contact with liberation or freedom, or something like that. For example, one day, there might be thoughts arising, proliferation, and as soon as there is awareness, it drops off, it is let go of, it has been put down. You understand it? You realize what it is. Your very thoughts? Don't think that there is something to realize outside of this. Whatever you may meet that is external, that's not it. Don't fool yourself. Don't look for results far away. A wise man looks at what is close by, as a Thai proverb says. Anger, desire, and delusion are over here. Don't depart from awareness, watch things with awareness over here. Now, the mind is all right, it is normal. It won't be long and it thinks again. We watch that. Watch it clearly. Become familiar in watching, and skilled. Be a champ in watching. It is good to see suffering. To see suffering is the most excellent thing. Clearly seeing the suffering of Rupa and Nama. Suffering gives rise to Buddha. If there was no suffering, there would be no Buddha. Don't be the one who is suffering, see it. To see suffering is to be the Buddha, a little Buddha. The Buddha is the one who knows, the awakened one, the joyful one. It doesn't mean a person, rather, it is the quality of knowing, of being awake, that is the Buddha. The state of seeing is a quality, it is the standard of life, it is the path. But the state of being, caught up, is ill fortune, it is bad luck. One can be all things, one can be the one who is hot, cold, hungry, good, not good, or whatever. The state of seeing, on the other hand, is the inheritance of spirituality. In the beginning of the development of awareness, one must do it with intention, intentionally moving the hands and feeling it, feeling it. When you do it a lot, you'll come to love it. If you experience awareness, you'll love it with your whole heart. You feel satisfied and joyful. You feel that you don't want anything else in life. It is right here, Fullness of heart is right here. In the beginning some people may not yet be fluent, and not yet see the value. They practice half-heartedly and don't really make contact. But when you make contact with awareness at the hand moving, you will become familiar with awareness. It is not ordinary awareness. When you do it a lot, it turns into responsibility, it is a protecting, it is caring. If we try to experience awareness, love will spring up, we won't be fooled again, we don't want anything else, we are content and we love this method, we are satisfied with it. We were born for this state of awareness. Once we have experience with this method, we are safe, utterly pure, and we don't have problems or suffering. We are diligent to experience awareness, and a whole heap of stuff comes to an end. I'm talking about things that are possible. Everybody can try it out, to build up and experience awareness, and you will come to know the facts for yourself. May you all participate in studying this matter, because I really can't do your practice. Awareness is not something to flatter or extol people with, as some public speakers do concerning merit. I have been speaking on the Dhamma, I haven't spoken about anything else. Dhamma is nature, ordinariness. The things that I have spoken about are things that exist in all of you. I didn't talk about things outside of you. Our duty is to put forth effort and try to develop awareness, being aware of raising the hand. Be aware of the body. As for the mind, don't go and look for it, but when it thinks, then watch and know it. Don't make it into your focus point, just watch thoughts when they arise. At first, try to be aware of the body. Walk and sit. When the mind comes up with a thought, know and don't be caught up in it, see thought. Then, return to awareness of the body. This is the method that I'm teaching you. I speak so you may hear. You are the ones who are listening, reading. Having listened, put it into practice. If this is the way it is, then there is hope for Buddhism. Well, I guess this is enough. I don't talk so much in order for you to remember, I talk in order for you to see clearly. I talk in order for you to go ahead and do it. Answers to some questions and some experiences in training in awareness. Question, talking about not clinging, when somebody who is used to saying whatever he or she likes, gets angry and abuses someone, they let go and feel all right. It seems as if such a person doesn't feel troubled about it. But in fact there is a kind of clinging, isn't there? Luangpor Teean, in such a case, one is completely overwhelmed by defilements, that is not letting go. Rather, the defilements are satisfied, having eaten to their heart's content. Question, but they don't have any suffering, it doesn't make them feel uncomfortable. Luangpor, defilements get to a point where they are full. Swearing at someone makes one feel good, right? Question, sometimes we do things that are not so good, like being angry and reacting in a heavy way, but if we don't think about it we feel all right. Others, who are good people with ideals usually think about their actions. Is that good or bad? Thinking about one's actions is more suffering than not thinking about them. Luangpor, it is good because one looks after one's virtue. There is still suffering, but one recognizes the difference between one's own and another's goodness and badness. One knows what the results of different actions are, because one reflects on them, stepping into other people's shoes. Then, one should learn to let go and take the experience as a lesson, the good ones as well as the bad ones. Question, I've heard a monk say that a practitioner is like someone who learns to drive a car, at first it's awkward and quite difficult. Luangpor, it's like that. Learning to ride a bicycle is the same, at first it's hard to keep in balance, sometimes you want to make a right turn but instead you make a left. Or you see an obstacle in front of you and you try to avoid it, but you run right into it. It takes a lot of sweating and quite some time, before you find your balance. But what's it like when you've trained yourself? Easy, everything is automatic, no matter where you go you're fluent and skilled. Question, it's really hard to train like that? Isn't it better to not train at all? Luangpor, well, then you can't ride? If we don't train our minds, we will be servants of circumstances and desires. This will make one go up and down throughout one's life. Question: what was your experience like when you first set out to practice? Did you have obstacles or was it easy? Luangpor, oh, it was really awkward and difficult. At first, I felt very uncomfortable and fed up. Why do I have to sit here and practice like this? The mind was raising objections like this all the time. But I challenged myself and kept on training. When I had trained myself more and had fixed on awareness more continuously, the mind's arguing began to diminish. There was more awareness and it was more continuous. After that, I found the way. When awareness became awakened, I really found the way. I saw Rupa and Nama. I saw the three characteristics, I saw the states of the body and the mind arising. My life during that period was nourished with joy. The mind didn't wander, there was really clear awareness that was independent. But at first, it was a real hassle, I had to put a lot of effort into it, and I felt uneasy and burdened. Actually, I've trained in the method of using the mantra, Bhudo before. I practiced with that until I was skilled at it. But I still got angry, I couldn't deal with suffering. When I trained in developing awareness, it was very hard in the beginning, because there was still opposition in the mind. However, when I continued to make effort and awareness became crystal clear, I got to know that this method is actually not difficult and bears lots of fruit. Afterwards I felt that the method of mantra recitation is much more difficult. Question: how do you mean more difficult? Do you mean that there is more opportunity for the mind to wander off? Luangpor, no. When I trained at Bhudo, I was just beginning. But when I could do it, I felt that I was still stuck, I was still besieged with agitation and worry. Later, when I switched to this method, it was easier than the recitation method. I'm somebody who likes to train himself, and so I didn't have to force myself a lot. I had confidence in learning from my experiences. Never mind if others don't do it, but I have to be able to train myself, and do what is right. This is how I thought at first, and this spirit backed me up all the way. I once asked Luangpor Teean, since when have you been practicing like this? He said, I was 45 at the time. Myself, I was 30 years old, and so I challenged myself thinking, people's abilities probably don't differ that much. I further asked him, are there any people who have developed awareness with you, and didn't get any insight? Luangpor Teean said, no, there aren't. And so I had confidence and didn't think about it a lot. I determined to put forth effort by being aware through walking meditation, and knowing the postures in a continuous way. I didn't have much time, to sit and ask questions like you have. I didn't use the method of looking for information. Actually, I did have questions, but I used to learn from experiences more. In those days, Luangpor Teean taught to be aware through using the rhythmic meditation. Be aware simply like this. No, like this. He instructed to really do it, and he didn't sit around to explain a lot of questions as you're doing these days. He just presented the method, in order that we go ahead and practice it. Only once in a long time would he drop by to check on you. At one time he asked, how is it going? I answered, nothing is going, nothing is happening. He disappeared. The next day he came again and advised, don't think about this and that, just be aware, fix on awareness. See the movements of the body, do it continuously. He would only say a few words. He came to give me advice for some days. Some days he would come and talk. Some days he would show me things. Sometimes I didn't yet understand his advice, but I determined to continuously put forth effort. I tried to continuously be aware of the postures. Sometimes I would be aware, sometimes I would lose it, alternating from one to the other. It took me a full month to understand the state that Luangpor Teean was talking about. When Sati became prominent, awareness was awakened and established. It felt like I had really found the path of life. I wasted a lot of time because I was attached to my old way of practicing. My mind used to be still and peaceful when reciting the word Buddha. It was cool and comfortable. I was stuck. I thought that that way was better than this way of developing awareness. I remember that many people went to practice with Luangpor Teean, and they would practice intensively for a week or two and got results. But it took me a full month because I had views and opinions. Question: I once trained myself doing walking meditation and rhythmic meditation, but after a while I returned to watching the breath at the same time, because I have trained in anapanasati, awareness of breathing before. Luangpor: sometimes it happens like that. It's ordinary because one has a familiarity from the past. Question: right. As soon as I try to not watch the breath, and concentrate on the hands at every movement, I get a headache. Luangpor: that's no good. Question: is it possible to use the same principles, of developing awareness that Luangpor Teean teaches, with watching the breath? Luangpor: I tried that out and applied it, when I first set out to develop awareness. Having done anapanasati, awareness was not clear, not the same as establishing awareness this way. Awareness of movements of the body in the various postures is very clear. And it is easier to focus on. Sati stands out. One really becomes awake. After the mind has been established and awakened, one is able to acknowledge with continuous awareness both the refined movements of the breath, the movements of the body, in both the coarse and the refined postures, as well as being able to use a mantra in practicing. There is no problem at all. No matter how subtle the breath may be, one sees the movements clearly because one's mind is awakened and is well cultivated, having learned how to focus on and establish awareness. In 1975, I followed Luangpor Teean to Wat Chonla Pertan, near Bangkok. The abbot, Jau Kunpanyananda, entrusted us with the training of all the young monks in meditation. That year Venerable Khemananda, now a lay teacher, spent the rains retreat there too. He also taught meditation, so we divided the task up between us. Venerable Khemananda taught anapanasati, as is taught by his teacher Ajahn Buddhadasa. Luangpor Teean and myself taught the development of awareness using the rhythmic and walking meditation. At that time Venerable Khemananda didn't yet understand Luangpor Teean. After the first month of the rains, 3 newly ordained monks asked to change and come and train to develop awareness with Luangpor Teean. They sneaked away from Venerable Khemananda. Luangpor Teean instructed them. Those 3 monks were very determined. They managed to focus on awareness and make it stand out. This gave rise to joy and confidence, and they invited their friends to give it a try too. Venerable Khemananda got to know about this. He was surprised that the young monks were so serious about developing awareness, and so he came to check it out and ask some questions. In the end, Venerable Khemananda tried Luangpor Teean's method to develop awareness, and was satisfied with the changes that took place in his mind. Since 1975, Venerable Khemananda has been an important teacher, helping to train and teach the cultivation of awareness according to the teachings of Luangpor Teean. He has also helped to spread the teachings, and come to an understanding with scientists and young people, at all sorts of teaching institutions about cultivating one's own mind. As a result, government officials and young students have come to try developing awareness more and more. Question: how can we solve the problem of wanting to follow the breath and watching movements at the same time? I find that this is really hard to do. Luangpor: well, one has to be diligent in aiming for awareness. Make yourself comfortable and try to be aware. You don't need to make all-out efforts or force yourself. When you lose awareness while watching the breath, then let go at first. Never mind if the mind goes off sometimes. On realizing that your mind has wandered off, you come back again to a new moment of awareness, and, so doing, you put down the thought or object that made you lose awareness. Train to bring up awareness. Do it at ease. Don't go and force yourself, wanting things to be like this or that, because the more you force yourself the more the mind thinks and goes into turmoil. Be aware continuously. When you have awakened awareness, the wandering of the mind will disappear by itself. Question: in watching the movements, do we have to see the various postures at each moment? Luangpor: there is no need to determine to see the various postures. Just train to be more and more aware, and when awareness becomes awakened, this awakeness of the mind will see the various postures more clearly by itself. Question: at first, I tried to watch the movements with every move, in an intensive way. Luangpor: that's not the way to do it. Just train to bring up more awareness, making it more continuous. However you move, let the mind be aware of it, see the process of moving continuously. When your mind starts to think of this and that, or some mood arises, don't get annoyed or try to stop it, don't be interested in what's happening, rather, turn back to being aware, wake up awareness. First, train in establishing awareness. When awareness is awake and established, it will be easy to see thought, and to keep up with the arising moods, not being caught up in them. Awareness will be clear and it will happen by itself. Question: when I first tried, I tried to concentrate in order to not follow or think anything else. Luangpor: don't concentrate, it will give you a headache. Question: from your experience, do you find that focusing on the breath gives good results? Luangpor: there are good results when one does it in the right way. Question: but I doubt whether there will be progress or not. As far as I have practiced, there was peace but no more than that, I'm still as caught in moods as I was before. Luangpor: peace is samatha, it is just the basic stage. It is a state of mind. In developing awareness, one doesn't get peaceful, not that kind of peace. When awareness is awakened, it turns into Vipassana. It is wisdom knowledge, it sees the body and the mind. The walking meditation and the rhythmic meditation, moving the arms about, is a method, it is an exercise to focus on awareness. We take the movements of the body to be a sign, nimitta, and a base. It is the foundation for waking up sati, and making it continuous. When we have established awareness, we will see what's going on in the body and the mind as it is. Just the awakeness of the mind, the state of having sati sampajanya, that is completely awake, is enough to bring happiness and normality to your life. The result of awakened awareness is wisdom knowledge. This means to see all things as they actually are in reality. The kind of seeing that is important to guide life, to the overcoming of suffering and all kinds of dis-ease and dissatisfaction, is to see thought and views, to see the process of proliferation in oneself. We see this, and we are really faced with suffering. We really see the states, characteristics, and the arising and passing in our minds. It is a seeing through sati sampajanya, that is established and awakened. No matter what state or condition we see, we can abandon it. We abandon things in stages, for example various views and opinions. We really see these things. Question: does this mean that training in anapanasati cannot lead to insight? Luangpor: it can. If we don't wallow in watching the breath until we become peaceful. Train in watching the breath with sati, being aware of it. Whether you're watching the long or the short breath, watch with awareness. Awaken awareness and remember that you focus on the breath in order to arouse sati, and train the mind to have recollection, and awareness that is more awake, not to let yourself follow and be caught up in the passing thoughts and moods. We develop awareness in order to live our lives with awareness. We depend on awareness and awakeness to work with the mind. To see thought, to see one's various views and opinions. We see it so that we can diminish them, abandon them, let go of thoughts, and put down various moods that we used to be deluded by. And so we must be careful that we don't train the mind for any other purpose. Question: there is a book of Ajahn Buddhadasa, which teaches not to train in anapanasati just to make the mind peaceful, but in order to see rupa nama and the three characteristics. Luangpor: right? He teaches to reflect on the three characteristics and see one's mind, to see what's happening in one's life. He doesn't teach people to get stuck in peacefulness. Peace and coolness are very delicious, I have been addicted to it. It's like drugs. The trained mind is cool and still. I certainly was immersed in those states. When I went to work on the fields, I wanted it to be evening quickly, so I could go back home and practice meditation in my room. I would make the mind peaceful. I was really attached to it. Question: I used to practice mindfulness with breathing, but I only got as far as peacefulness, I didn't know what to do next. Luangpor: there are two kinds of peace, one is stillness, the mind is peaceful and secluded, but the other kind is peace because we have sati sampajanya, and are awake. Moods and thoughts cannot enter and become powerful in our minds. Life is free from complexity and turmoil, this is peace due to our ability to establish awareness. We don't let the mind think and proliferate following thoughts, beliefs, and desires that we are familiar with. We know how to allay ourselves from delusions, attachments, and conceits. This latter kind of peace is therefore the kind of peace that can be used. It should be developed, one should train to have and be it. One should practice to keep up with one's mind more. In your case, you have practiced anapanasati before, so just continue with it, but be careful. Don't immerse yourself in concentrating until you get stuck on peace and calm. Try to practice with awareness and awakeness. See the movements of the breath more and more clearly together with the mind waking up more and more. The breath is one thing, that which sees the breath is another thing, something that stands out. When intuitive awareness, sati sampajanya, is awakened, the seeing or knowing of thoughts in time with their arising, will happen by itself. Question: what I did before was to follow the breath. Sometimes the mind would think of other matters, and as soon as I realized that I lost it, I would come back to the breath. Sometimes peace would arise after a while. Luangpor: all right. Next time, as soon as you realize that you're getting peaceful, change your posture. Try to wake yourself up and watch the breath again. Or you change to focusing on a more coarse posture such as walking. You have to try to arouse awareness, don't just let it stop with the arising peacefulness. Question: sometimes when there is peace, the mind dives down and it is hard to pull it away, awareness is all gone. Luangpor: yes, that is an obstacle. You should change the posture, get up and do this, do that. Rub your face, rub your body. Make sure that you wake up and bring back awareness. Question: as we're practicing, a lot of thoughts that we don't intend to think tend to come up, and the mind jumps around like a monkey. When we have practiced with awareness, does that kind of thinking stop altogether? Luangpor: if awareness really sees it, it will stop. When one is aware and awake, it will really stop. But when starting off to train, we have to have a sign to exercise with. What is recommended are the movements of the body. They are the base for establishing awareness. When we first start off, we shouldn't immediately concentrate on or watch our own thoughts and moods. That is being too hasty. When we have a sign to help us focus on awareness, such as the breath, the postures or movements, we have a way to exercise. We can see the states, conditions, and movements of the breath and of the body. Determine to be aware continuously. As soon as your mind thinks of something, know abreast of it. When you're careless and thought arises, as soon as you realize it, those thoughts will stop, they won't go on. We still do our main duty, that is to say, we continue being aware. Train yourself like this when you begin to practice. Establish awareness and make yourself able to awaken it. Question: but a lot of times we are still restless, which means that there is often a lack of awareness. The mind likes to think about the same old things, the thoughts that we've stopped many times. Luangpor: that's ordinary, we're still absorbed with those matters. We've been immersed in those things for a long time. We didn't use awareness and wisdom to reflect on the various problems, And so that's the way it is. Never mind. It's natural for the mind to wander. Realize it and come back. Come back to being aware again. No matter how many times you lose it, it doesn't matter. When we're more skilled and we can arouse awareness to be more awake and more clear, the jumping around of the mind will vanish by itself. So determine to train yourself.
May all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease.